and we're on the top of Daf Chaf Aleph. The subject has been about things that are kosher in the day, is kosher the whole day. The Gemara is mostly emphasizing the point that it has to be in the day, but the same way the Mishnah said from when it has to start, from Netzach Hama, so now it says that the whole day is kosher till the end of the day, and we have a list of things that have to be during the day, and we're holding on the top of Chaf Aleph. Also, Egla Rufa. If a dead man was found, a slain man was found, and we don't know who killed him, so the tzibur is supposed to bring Egla Rufa for a kapara until the Mitzvah is found, and it has to be dafka in the daytime. The fact that it says the word kapara, like it says over there that they should wash their hands, so since it says the word kapara, so it has din of carbon, even though it's not a carbon. It's not on the base of mikdash, it's outside. You're doing it a rifa, you're not doing shchita, it's not a carbon. But since it says the word kapara, it has the same thing as kachim, but kachim we said it's dafka in the day. So too, this gluf has to be done during the day. Taras HaMetzorah, the whole process in order to purify your Metzorah has to be also be in the day. Since it says biyom Torah, so you learn that it has to be dafka in the day. Then the Mishnah continued on to the night halachas, and anything which is kosher, which is supposed to be at night, so it says the whole night is good. And it said two examples over there. And the other thing it says also about tek tachalov veivarim, and the Gemara is going to bring psukim for those two things. Ktsir Omer means when you cut the Omer before you bring it on the 16th of Nisan, so the night before, Matzah Yantav, that's when you cut the Omer, so it says the whole night. The cutting of the Omer and Sfiras Omer is at night. We do Sfiras Omer at night. It's not the subject of the Mishnah. The Mishnah could have mentioned it also maybe, but what it does say is Ktsiras Omer is at night, so the point is that it's the whole night. And Havoah B'yom, the actual Korban Omer is brought during the daytime. The Mishnah didn't mention that will be also the whole day. We had that Gemara someplace that it said that even though it's kosher the whole day, but the person wasn't Basazel, they brought it until Chatzos. Even if you don't know that it was brought, you could assume that it was brought till Chatzos and Itchadash in the day. But here it's talking about the night, and the Tzir Somer is kosher the whole night. Mashma that it's not kosher at the day. You can't cut it. You're supposed to cut it dafka at night, not in the daytime. If you wait until the daytime, and it's the 16th day already, so it's mashma that you didn't do it Allah. You're supposed to cut it at night. The Mishnah also says Hekta Chalav Meivarm is also kosher the whole night. And here is an interesting thing to point out that it's not the same as the other one. Ktsir Somer is dafka at night. Hekta Chalav Meivarm is not saying that it's dafka at night. You can do it in the daytime also. When you book the korban in the day, so you could burn the Chalav Meivarm also right away. You're allowed to do it also the following night. So it's a little interesting that it's not the same as the Ktsir Somer, which is supposed to be dafka at night.
The Ktsir Somer, you have only one night to do it.
Right. And they bring it right away to the Azara, but that says how they process it. They would roast it, toast it in a way that they should be able to grind it. And they did it at night, and the next morning they brought the korban home. What? Matzai Pesach, right. Matzai Yom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach, right. And so I'm just pointing out, Hekta Chalav Meivarm is not dafka in the night. It can be in the daytime or before or earlier. That you're allowed to bring it also till the end of the night. The whole night until the morning, so you're allowed to burn the korbanos at night also. Then the Mishnah ended off. And even though it gave examples of both of them, it says it repeats it again with the Zeh Klal. And the Gemara says, what's it coming to be marba? The fact that it says already all the halachas, what is added by saying again Zeh Klal? The rule is whatever the mitzvah is to be done in the daytime is kosher the whole day. And again later on we're going to see the Gemara asks them both of them, what's it coming to add? Zeh Klal, what is this Klal coming to add on more than we didn't know till now? The Gemara says a chiddush. So this is a chiddush because we're just talking about something which is kosher in the day, in contrast to the night. Now the Gemara is learning out, stretching it very much, and saying that there's a ribu in the Mishnah, it's an extra Mishnah to teach you that there's a thing over here that's going to be kosher in the day. The point is not that it's kosher in the day and not in the night. The question is that it's kosher the whole day. Even if you have a big interruption in between, it's good enough, which is not the subject of the Mishnah at all. It seems to be like a drush in the Mishnah, an extra riboy that the Mishnah must be coming to tell us something else. That it says that on the Shabbos, you would be the changing of the lechem apanim. You would break the lechem apanim on Friday and put it onto the table on Shabbos and take it off the next Shabbos. And each Shabbos you'd have a changing of the lechem. You'd bring the new one that was baked yesterday and take off the old one that was baked last week, and you give it out to the kohanim to eat. That's called, and also the bazichin. Bazichin happens to be the cup the spoon, kappa, ladle of Ketores that was that of Lavona, that was burnt on the Mizbeach. Also, that goes together with the lechem apanim. I'm not sure why it talks about the bazichin. It would mean the bread also. So he says, see the bazichin of basilak bazichin, that on Shabbos you take off last week's and you put on this week's. So is allowed to be an interruption. Over there, the Mishnah says that you didn't make an interruption between them, and as they took off one, they would put on the other one, like touching each other, kamat. But Rabbi Yossi says you don't have to. Rabbi Yossi says you can take it off comfortably and then put on the next one, even if there's a big hafsakim between the Tanya Rabbi Yossi Omer, or maybe it's even the Mishnah, the Rabbi Yossi Omer, Silkasei Shana Shachris. We see this Achadash Arvis and no problem. Even if you take off last week's in the morning, in the morning, and you put on the new one towards in the afternoon, late afternoon, it's okay, even though you had many hours in between. It doesn't have to be constantly. It says there, Tamid, Umani Mekayim. What does it say in the pasuk? The Fanai Tamid, that it says that Shulchan should be with the bread Tamid, Lafanai, or constantly. Tanakam took it very literally, that it should be always with the bread. And when you take off the old one, you should right away put on the new one. There shouldn't be any hefsek. But if Yosef says it's no problem, what does Tamid mean? Shelo Yehei Shulchan below Lechem. Or it says in the side, Shelo Yolin, that it shouldn't be overnight. Shelo Yolin, it shouldn't be overnight. That's called, if a whole day passes without bread, that's called that it wasn't Tamid. But as long as every day there was bread, it's okay, and even if it was a big upsaka. So the Gemara is mamish stretching the Mishnah, that when it says by us, that a davar shemisfas over yom kosher kol hayom, not only is it kosher kol hayom, that would have meant that you could do it in the morning, you could do it in the afternoon, but you could do half the job in the morning and half the job in the afternoon, and a big upsaka in between. We wouldn't see that in our Mishnah. But the fact that it's extra Mishnah, the Gemara seems to learn this out also, that our Mishnah holds like Rabbi Yossi, that you could make a big upsaka in between, take off the last week's bread in the morning and put on the new one as long as in the afternoon, as long as it didn't pass a whole day without any bread. The Mishnah continues. This is the last Gemara of the parak.
Does all this go back to the original megillah that you left halfway?
No, Chaim Dov is asking a question that if you could learn from our Mishnah also that if it says that kosher kol hayom kosher learn kriyas megillah, are you also going to say that you could make a big hafsaka in between? The Mishnah says kol hayom kosher learn kriyas megillah. So you're going to say the same way the Gemara says by the Lasuye Mai that it's coming to teach us that the lachem apanim could be a big hafsaka in between. Are you going to say kriyas megillah so you could have a big hafsaka in between because it says the whole day is kosher? So I think not. And there was a machlokas over there. Kadei ligma is kula. If you have to go back or not, I think we passing over there that you don't have to go back. It is kosher even if you. I think maybe I made a mistake.
I thought it had to be as no longer than the whole thing.
We passing that there. The Gemara surely says that. I'm just thinking if we passing like that or not. Let me just jump back a second ago.
Because it seems to be in the same format as our.
Right. So I think that one second. Allah we passing that you also even if Shakadei Ligma school. That was the whole thing about Rabbi Mona over there. That was on Yud Chesem at base. Do you pass like Rabbi Mona? You don't pass like Rabbi Mona. And then we don't pass like Rabbi Mona. Shmuel was Choshesh for Yachad. We don't pass like that. So we hold that even if you did wait a big hafsaka, Kadei Ligma school, you don't have to go back. You don't have to go back.
Beyond that, no.
Yeah, no. You waited Kadei Ligma school. You waited 5 hours in between. You read the Megillah to whatever parak, and you waited 5 hours, and then you did another parak. We hold that to Yotze against the Gemara. The Gemara over there, you're right. You do remember the Gemara. The Gemara on the Yud Ches said, "Don't wait so long." But we don't pass like that. That was all back and forth over there. Do you pass like Rabbi Mona? Don't you pass like Rabbi Mona? So we don't pass like Rabbi Mona. You don't have to. But yeah, but it's okay. It's fine. But I just want to say that this Mishnah, even though we just finished saying that by Lechem Apanim, the Mishnah is coming to be marba, that even if you had a big hafsaka between you are Yotzei, like the Gemara just explained, I don't think that you're going to learn out of the whole Mishnah. That's not subject of the Mishnah. This is like a drasha, a stretch in the Mishnah to say that when it says Za'aklal kol hakosher v'yom kosher kol hayom, so that's coming to be marba. Even this point by Lechem Apanim that you could have a big stretch in between, that you could, as long as it didn't pass the whole day. But I don't think the Gemara is going to be able to learn out that the rest of the Mishnah. The Mishnah is not coming to tell you that. The Mishnah is coming to tell you in day, in contrast to night. So it's a nice point, Mamash a nice point that according to the Gemara's logic, the Gemara's explanation of the Mishnah, maybe go back and say the whole thing you could divide with the big hafsaka in between, but I don't think that the Gemara means that. We pass this, but as far as the halacha goes, we pass can divide a Megillah, even if you had a big hafsaka, you are Yotzei. And over here, I don't recall that you pass like a Yossi or not. I don't know. How do they do the lachem apanim? Do they make up sucking between, or do they put tefach b'yat tefach? As soon as they took off the old one, they didn't leave the table without bread, without the bread, table without the bread at all.
That was the argument. That maybe
that's called tamid. What does tamid mean? And the last Gemara talks about Davish Masbasa B'Laila Kosher Kol Halayla, and it already said two examples. It spoke about Ksiras Omer, it spoke about Hektek Halav Beivorim, so that's kosher the whole night. And it says again, Zaklal. So what is the klal coming to include more than the Mishnah says already? La'asui Mai. What is the Mishnah coming to include more? La'asui Achilas Psachim Udulok Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So this is the question everybody knows about eating the Afikoman until Chatzos. The Korban Pesach was only until Chatzos. So that's the question. Is it the rice or the Rabbanan? Are you allowed to eat the Korban Pesach the whole night or only until Chatzos? In Korbanos, in Ezel Mokoman, it says Pesach Ein Nechal Elad Chatzos. Right. So the question is, if that is a machlokas about that. Some say the Pesach with the Raisa could be eaten the whole night. So here, the fact that the Mishnah says there's something Zaklal, there's something which is kosher at night, kosher the whole night. So the Gemara says it's against Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who says that with the Raisa, the Korban Pesach is only eaten until midnight. So there's machlokas about it. Machlokas Rabbi Elazar ben Kiva till when you could eat the Korban Pesach with the Raisa. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says only till Chatzos. That's going to be the Gemara. The Gemara is going to bring it down. We had this in Brachas and Pesachim also. And Rabbi Kiva argues and says that till the morning.
Like all
And-
the others.
Till the Los Shachar, and it could be that he also agrees with Rabbanan until Chatzos, like it says the first mission in Brachas that says that Kol Nachol and Yom V'Layla, so you have to finish by Chatzos. So it could be Rabbi Kiva's also masking with Rabbanan. But here, the fact that the Mishnah says that there's something with the rice at least that you're allowed to eat the whole night, Kosher Kol Halayla. So the Gemara says, our Mishnah holds like Rabbi Kiva that the Korban Pesach may be eaten with the rice the whole night against Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah that says only till Chatzos. The Tanya, what's the drasha to say it's only eaten till Chatzos? It says V'achlas Abasa B'Layla Hazeh. It sounds like the whole night. V'achlas Abasa B'Layla Hazeh. You should eat the meat of the Korban Pesach on this night, but then Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, there's Gzeir Shava. Never kind of B'Layla Hazeh. Because that is B'Layla Hazeh. And then Halan by Makas B'Choros, it says V'vati Be'es Musayim B'Layla Hazeh. And over there it says V'kesi Kol B'Chor, and it says that was by Chatzos. Kachatzos Halayla Niyaseh V'Soch Mitzrayim. So it says that it was only till midnight. Just like Makas B'Choros was midnight, so too the eating of the Korban Pesach is till midnight. Says Machlokas Tanoam, if you eat the Korban Pesach with the Raisa the whole night, only till midnight. Our Mishnah that says Zaklal, it's coming to be mar, but that the Korban Pesach also that the rice is eaten the whole night, like Rabbi Kiva against Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Machlokas is shown who you paskin like, but even if you paskin like Rabbi Kiva, the Pasha says Mirabanan, you also can only eat it until Chatzos. So we eat the Korban Pesach and we eat the Afikoman, which is connected to the Korban Pesach, so we eat it until Chatzos. What do we come out with? That the megillah of the daytime is supposed to be not before sunrise, the diavad from Mamon Shachas Yotze, and if you didn't do it then in the morning right away, so you could do it the whole day. And he brought a list of Agvadah. We were zocha to a lot more. That there are many other things that could be the whole day, and those things that are at night, like Tiras Omer, Hektek Halav Beivorim, could be the whole night.
If you can only do one of those at night, or during the day, you do during the day?
I think so. Nice point. That is how we maybe do the first one that comes, the first opportunity. But the Iker Kriyas Megillah that I say is the one of the day, and we said over there that the Ashkenazim even say Shechiyanu twice, even in the morning and the night and the morning again. Even though they did it last night, why are you saying it's Shechiyanu? Because the Iker one is the one of the day, and the Psukim also I think more dashins over there. The man is a Mecha Kavod V'lo Yidom. It makes it sound like the Iker one is the day and also a night. And the Mishnah, just to point out that the Mishnah is just say the Kriyas Megillah of the day. If you'd ask a Mishnah's person, you never would know that it's supposed to be the Megillah at night. The Gemara said, Shulchan Levi said so. They might have been out of kasha. The Mishnah doesn't sound like that. So the Gemara says, okay, the Mishnah is not coming to talk about the night, but it's a very huge chiddush that the Mishnah doesn't mention the Kriyas Megillah of the night. By people, what is considered the main one? What do people consider more the night? I'm not sure.
The night is
like the big one,
Yeah,
and then after the.
That's the kick in. That's
That
starts the festivity.
But it could be the Iker one is the one of the
night one
day.
is the big one.
Is the big one, but really the day one is the big one. Okay.
You're the day person.
I'm a night and day person.
Good.
Let's do poor. Not like my son is a 2-day person. He just makes sure that he celebrates for 2 days.
Next one, the next parak, when the third parak. Now, just to point out that the order of the prakim here is questionable. The Mishnayos have the third and fourth parak is a question of which is the order. Some have the opposite order, and what we have is the third is the fourth, and what we have the fourth is the third. Well, we did it according to the text over here, but just to point out that in the Mishnayos, I think also that it's turned around, it's switched. The third and fourth parak is the opposite order.
I'm sorry, so we're learning it out of order.
We're learning it the order that it says over here, but there's a question in the Girsos. in
And
different
here's
manuscripts.
Mishnayos,
In the Mishnah, I think in the Mishnah it has the opposite
It has
one.
the opposite.
I'll
yeah.
just check it a second. I have it right here. How is it printed in the regular Mishnayos?
This one is Hakore,
And the next one is Ha'omed. Is that true? The next one is going to be.
Hakore Omed. No.
Oh, that's ours. I'm sorry. The next one is going to be B'nai Ha'ir. B'nai Ha'ir.
Yeah.
So in the Mishnayos, I have the third one is B'nai Ha'ir, and the fourth one is the Korban Megillah Amud V'yosh. If you look at the Mishnayos, you won't find the third parak of what we're learning now. This is going to be the fourth parak. So the order that a Gemara printed is different than the order that the Mishnah is printed. And there's a machlokus, some kind of a girsa issue of what the order of the program is supposed to be. It doesn't affect the learning. The first halacha is the Korban Megillah Amud V'yosh. The one who reads the Megillah could be standing or sitting. The way they learn, the Balkore could even be sitting.
Never seen it in my sleep.
So you do see it when you read at home, right?
It's true.
But you're right that learn the Mishnah means that even if you're B'tzibur, even the Balkor B'tzibur also could read because Balkor
Usually
could.
at home it's not a tzibur.
Right, but true. So we're saying by Yachid you could read it sitting, but even B'tzibur you could read it sitting.
Yeah.
The Mishnah comes to say even B'tzibur you can read it sitting, which is a chiddush, and we don't see it too often. The Rambam says that lachatchila, even lachatchila, the Balkor should stand because covered at tzibur, but it's not a real din. It's not really mechuyev. It's a nice thing.
Covered.
It's a nice thing to stand, but not that you're mechuyev. The Rambam says Shulchan brings it down that lachatchila you should stand because covered at tzibur, but the Mishnah is saying that you don't have to. Halachically you don't have to, and Mishnah Bobada talks about that even though when you're supposed to stand, so leaning on something is not acceptable, but it could be about a kriyas megillah since you don't really have to stand, so you could lean. The Balkari could be leaning. It doesn't have to be concerned if he's leaning. Like Kriyas Torah that he will see soon in the Gemara, the Kriyas Torah you do have to stand, but Balkari has to stand over there. Should not be leaning on anything. Okay, that's the first halacha. That was halacha number one, that reading the Megillah can even be sitting, even the Balkori. The next halacha, if you have two people reading it simultaneously, one person surely, but even if two people are reading it simultaneously, you could be also from that. And even though you might say that I can't hear, if you have two people reading simultaneously, we're going to say in the Gemara, like Kriyas Torah, you're not Yotzei if two people read simultaneously. But here, by Megillah, even if two people read simultaneously, you could be Yotzei. You could hear one. You can have selective hearing. Why?
I thought that their voices cancel out each other.
So when you the Gemara,
so
the Gemara is going to say that Kriyas Megillah, since it's so exciting and beloved, so people could pay attention. To pay attention, they could hear at least one of them. They'll hear one of them.
Are they reading
Simultaneously. They're reading simultaneously. You'll be able to concentrate on one and hear one.
Okay.
And the third halacha, makom shenagu levarach yivarach, shelo levarach lo yivarach. As far as the bracha goes, so that depends on the minhag makom. It's not mamish absolute. If the minhag is to make a bracha, you say a bracha. If the minhag is not. The Mishnah alone would sound like Al Mikro Megillah. Do you have to say a bracha or not? The Gemara is going to say we're not talking about that. The Gemara is going to say we're talking about the after bracha. And that's totally in a minhag makom. The Gemara is going to say that the bracha before, you surely have to say a bracha. Any mitzvah has to have a bracha. So that's in the Gemara. We finished the three halachas of the Mishnah. One is that could even be sitting, and one is that even two people could do it simultaneously. And the bracha, as we said, the Gemara is going to say the after bracha depends on the minhag makom. Just to point out that as far as Hilchos Megillah goes, the Masechta is over. The rest of the Masechta is going to be all kinds of nice issues about Kriyas Torah, basic Knesses, related topics. But there's no more about the Megillah. It's going to come in some things.
Put it last.
No, on the contrary, the other parak has nothing to do with Megillah.
It's even less.
That's
even less than this one.
This is here we finish up three halachas about Megillah, now goes on to Kriyas Torah, many halachas about Kriyas Torah, and then the fourth parak is going to be about basic Knesses. So, and that's that someone pointed out, Machavusa pointed out, I said it, that you don't even have the halachas of Purim in the whole Masechta. It does talks about Kriyas Megillah. Everything we did have in the Mishnah doesn't know about the Suda, doesn't know about Matanas Lev. It came in Agav when it talked about the Rishon or the Sheni. So it said over there, Ein Bain, over there it spoke about Matanas Lev Yonim. But the rest of it, and that's what the Gemara inserted already, all the halachas about Matanas Lev Yonim, B'Shlach Monos, and the Suda, but the Masechta is Megillah. It's not Purim. It's not Masechtas Purim. Masechtas Megillah. Interesting. Very interesting. And the rest of the Masechta now is going to be related topics, all about Kriyas Torah. This is the Masechta. You want to know Hilchos Kriyas Torah? This was starting now.
Which Masechta talks about the other ones?
No, that's it. That's it. It's only Gemara.
Just in Shulchan Aruch.
It came in the Gemara where it spoke about Matanas Lev Yonim, Agav, other region, other Sheni. So over there it talks about Mishloach Manos and Tazav Yonim and the Suda,
Almost
and that's it.
nothing.
No more Mishnayos about it. People ask Kasha Chanukah, there's no Mishnayos. No, there's no Mishnayos on Purim either. There's Mishnayos about Kriyas HaMegillah. Interesting, a very nice observation. So now we start Hilchos Kriyas HaTorah, which is even more relevant than Kriyas HaMegillah because we have Kriyas HaTorah the whole year. So here it says it's going to talk about Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos b'mincha. I should have already highlight this, make it a little bit more. It's going to be Sheni Chamishi Shabbos b'mincha, and then we're going to have Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed, and then we're going to have some more. We'll have Yom Tov, and then Yom Kippur, and then Shabbos. Okay, that's just to get it highlighted. So, Sheni v'chamishi b'Shabbos b'mincha, Kohen Shlosha, ein pochsem ben b'sifin alein, ben maftian ben navi, ha'posech v'chosem b'torah, v'vach l'panei alach. Not sure what happened. Okay. Huh? Sorry. Just find out what daf we're on.
Kafal.
I don't know what happened just now.
You went back to the beginning.
Okay. So we're holding B'Sheni v'Chamishi v'Shabbos b'mincha, Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos mincha. What do? Kohen Shlosha, 3 aliyahs. 3 people read. Ein pochsem man can't do less than 3. Ein mosifin alein, you can't do more than 3. You can't make osafos. And on Monday, Thursday, Shabbos mincha, you can't do more than, not less, not more than 3 aliyahs. Ein maftian ben navi, there's no Torah. You don't bring the navi. You don't bring the navi by Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos mincha. The one who reads first and the one who reads last, we would call that the Kohen and the Yisrael. So they say the bracha before and after. That means that the Kohen says the bracha before, and the Yisrael says the bracha after. It means that the Kohen doesn't say an after bracha, the Levi doesn't say any bracha, and Yisrael, the third aliyah, he just says after bracha. We don't do this nowadays. Each person says a bracha before and after. We're going to see the Gemara. The Gemara says different than the Mishnah, but in the Mishnah, it just says that the first one says the first bracha, and the last one says the last bracha, nothing in between. That means that each person, when the Levi comes, so what does the Levi do then? He comes up, he doesn't, what does he do? The answer is that he reads. Everyone's supposed to read. In the olden days, everyone used to read. He didn't just say bracha, and then
He just walks up and starts to read. That's how it is.
Right. So, and it really should be the Kohen comes to say bracha and starts reading. And then he doesn't say after bracha, the Levi comes and he reads the next portion. And then the Yisrael is going to be the next portion, and then he's going to say after bracha. Nowadays, that nobody reads, everyone says, what you have a pinch hitter, it's called, something like that you have just the Balkori's reading, so the one against Ali doesn't do anything. He just says a bracha. And in the olden days, the Levi didn't say a bracha. The Kohen said one bracha before, the Yisrael said one bracha after. So it's a little different. Nowadays, it would be very funny that the Levi just comes up and doesn't do anything, like he just changes position and then the Valkori continues. But that's what halacha was originally. And also just to point out that the original minhag was that each person would read himself. To have the Valkori is like a new chiddush. Why you have Valkori? Each person is supposed to read. But since people don't know how to read, so they got this pinch hitter that he reads. But it's not really the din of Kriyas HaTorah. So that's
I
the first.
understand that haposeh would be someone who opens.
The opener. That means the first one who reads first. The
But
opener.
hachosem, why couldn't it mean the one who finishes? Like if a person comes up, wherever he finishes, he did a chosem.
So whoever comes up is also a poseh. You should ask
Why
another
couldn't
reason.
this be read? I understand what you're saying, but why couldn't this be read? That each of them are going to do like what we do today.
Then you wouldn't call him a posech and a chosem. You just would say, would just say that each person.
Lefanecha and bachreha. We wouldn't
Yeah,
say
you wouldn't say the
poseh,
posech and the chosem. So that means the posech means the one who starts reading first, and the chosem is the one who finishes reading.
He just reads the aliyah.
There are 3 aliyahs.
And the last aliyah, the sikum of the bracha. In other words,
I don't even mean sikum. There's an after bracha. There's a bracha. Asher bracha bonu. And he says, Asher nasan lanu teras.
Right.
Both of them say no say no Torah. No,
They both say no sin.
no say no Torah is just the way end of the bracha. Asher bracha bonu mikol
I'm
ha'am
trying
Torah.
to say that maybe the Kohen starts with the bracha shebacha banu mikol ha'amim, right?
Yes.
And then nothing is said from there on till
The end.
till the end. The Yisrael will say.
Asher nasan lanu teras. Yeah, fair. That's what we said.
Yeah, I'm
Good.
just asking why hachosem can't mean that it would be where the Kohen ends. And Rebbe's saying because it's
The whole thing is this: the words, the posech chosem, there's all extra. I should have said each one The Poseach and the Chosei means the one who opens, the one who
you wouldn't
opens the
need it at
reading.
all. I see. You wouldn't need to say those words at all. Okay.
Okay, so that's the halacha about Monday and Thursday and Shabbos b'mincha. 3 aliyahs, not more, not less. No Haftorah, and the first and the last say the bracha. The first says the first bracha, the last says the last bracha. Just to point out that these words HaPasech v'chosim b'tom v'rach fanei lachriya is going to be repeated 3 times, and there are different levels of kriyas haTorah, but they all have the same thing. The Mishnah is never going to say differently. All the aliyahs that is going to say 3. We're going to go through 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. That's what the Mishnah is going to say. As you see highlighted over here, there's Monday and Thursday and Shabbos Mincha is 3 aliyahs, Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed is 4 aliyahs, Yom Tov is 5 aliyahs, and Kippur is 6 aliyahs, Shabbos is 7 aliyahs. Each time it's going to say that the first one is going to say the first bracha, and the last one says the last bracha, and the Mishnah repeats the same thing 3 times. And Taisa says, why does it have to be so repetitious? But that's what the Mishnah says. So far we learned about Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos Mincha, and now we're going on to the next category, which is Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed. Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed, Ras Halacha, everything's the same. But there's 4 aliyahs instead of 3. Koran Abba, 4 aliyahs, 4 people read. Ein Tochsim Men, Vein Mosif and Aleh, not less, not more. Ein Maftir Benovi, there's no Haftorah. HaPasef Chosim Bator, Mavach Lefanei Lachra. The first one reads the first, says the first bracha, the last one says the last bracha. Zeh klal, before it continues on to the next, it says a klal, to remember what we just learned. Kol sheish bo musaf, ve'enu yom tov, Koran Abba. Whatever has musaf, but it's not a yom tov, he gets 4 aliyahs. That's Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed. Both of them have a musaf. There's a musaf on Rosh Chodesh. There's a musaf during Chol HaMoed, a korban musaf, but it's not a yom tov, not Rosh Chodesh and not Chol HaMoed. So that gets 4 aliyahs. And the Gemara is going to say that since it's a little bit more, everything the gradation here is going to be according to how holy it is.
Yeah.
There's going to be the regular Thursday, Monday, and Shabbos Mincha. I don't know, Shabbos Mincha is holy, but I guess that's because it's Mincha. And Rosh Chodesh Chol HaMoed is going to be 4. And then Mishnah continues, first white line, Yom Tov Chamisha, Yom Kippur Shisha, Shabbos Shiva. On Yom Tov there are 5 aliyahs, and Yom Kippur there's 6 aliyahs, and Shabbos 7 aliyahs. Ain't talking, man, you can't do less. Whatever we told you is a minimum. Avol Mosif and Aleh, and you could add stuff, you could add extra aliyahs.
Only by Shabbos.
Oh, so Chaim David says only by Shabbos. You could read the Mishnah differently. You could read the Mishnah that all these, Yom Tov, Yom Kippur, and Shabbos.
That's not the case.
So that's a machlokes. Some Rishonim would say that you could make a Safas on Yom Tov and Yom Kippur also. But some say, like Chaim David, and that's what the Ramah says that we should try to do, that not to make a Safas on Yom Tov and Yom Kippur only on Shabbos. Because then, if you're going to make more on Yom Tov and Yom Kippur, you're not going to see the hierarchy that goes Shabbos is more, Yom Kippur is more. Yeah, it goes Yom Tov, Shabbos, Yom Kippur. So on Shabbos, that's the maximum. So then there's no problem to make more because it's the maximum. But if it's going to be Yom Tov, you're going to make 6 or 7 Yom Kippur. So then you're not going to see the difference between Yom Tov and Shabbos. So that's the minhag of Ashkenazim, that they don't make aliyahs on Yom Tov and Yom Kippur, except for Simchas Torah. Over there's a custom to make a lot of aliyahs, but without that, we don't make Tosafos on Yom Tov and Yom Kippur, only on Shabbos.
Is this a source for that your Shabbos is even holier than Yom Kippur?
Yes, but it's all, we know that's Chayiv Skila and Yom Kippur is only Kores. The other sources also that Shabbos is more than
one of them.
Yeah, and yes.
I'm sorry. This Rashi would say, implies that this would be true for any day that's not a work day. Not that it's just Shabbos.
You're saying that Rashi, which Rashi are you referring to, where it says "En maftir and alein"? Rashi says don't that indicate in the days that you're not allowed to make a
the
Safas.
statement here, but we may add to them refers to all days that are not work days.
Well, how do you see in Rashi?
The Ran says we see it in Rashi because
So,
he didn't say anything.
I think Rashi, because Rashi says that the reason you don't make a Safa on Mondays and Thursdays and Shabbos Mincha and Rosh Chodesh is because he says it's Yemei Malacha. It's work days, and Shabbos Mincha is close to the end of the day because they would have a drasha. That's why you don't make Hasafa. So according to Rashi implies only Ein Mosifin is only going on the 3 4 years, but he would say that by Yom Tov and Yom Kippur you may. So that's what the Ran says in Rashi, but the Ran does bring on others to say like Chaim David that only Shabbos may you make Hasafa, but Yom Kippur and Yom Tov not, because then you're not going to be able to say which one is more than the other. You're not going to be able to see that Shabbos is more than Yom Kippur and Yom Kippur is more than Yom Tov. So that's the minhag not to make Hasafa on Yom Tov and Yom Kippur. But Shabbos you definitely may. That's the point. If you just call them
Three
to read,
psukim, they read 3 psukim.
that's a
somebody
fine,
else
yeah,
read.
but no
But if
more
it's
brachas.
more,
But nowadays that it causes more brachas, so some say not to do it nowadays.
And that also Tirkat Tzipor or the.
And that it says that even in those that's also brought down. That Tirkat Tzibur not to make many Yosafos,
What?
not to make many Yosafos.
Not to make many.
Many.
Maybe one.
But it does say not to. But it says as far as making some Yosafa, so it says you may, and some say nowadays that we have brachas added. Each one says 2 brachas, so it's better not to. I think the Grua goes like that. In the Chorva, they don't make any Yosafas. I think it's based on the Grua that he also agrees. The Magen Avraham talks about it already. No Yosafas, no. Even if there's a lot of simchas, they don't make Yosafas. I think it's based on this thing.
Congregations where it's mikubal and other congregations where they're makpid, right?
Which way?
Makpid meaning it says not to do more
Not
than
to,
7,
right.
and other congregations where they're loose about it.
Yeah. And I was by shul once, every 3 psukim from the beginning. Every 3 psukim, another
Is it a
aliyah.
bar mitzvah or something?
But that's the last time I got
Everybody
over
gets
there.
it on.
What? No aliyahs at all? No Yosafas?
Nobody makes it.
Even by a
on.
simcha? Even by a simcha?
I didn't know. No,
Hmm?
it was very
Okay.
I don't think I remember once that he did.
Okay.
I know about his father.
Mhm. Okay, that was the mission. Has to go over again. The beginning talk about Megillah, 3 halachas. You let us say the Megillah even sitting, and 2 people can read it simultaneously. And saying a bracha is dependent on the minhag. Some yes, some not. We'll see the Gemara about that now. So we start the Gemara, and the first thing is about reading sitting. Tana, we learned in the Brisa, Masha'en Kain B'Torah. That's the
For sitting.
that Torah is different. What's different about it? That you're not allowed to read sitting.
Probably.
And the Balkori is supposed to be, they say the Balkori B'tzibur, that's how they learn the Gemara. It's not going to be so evident in the Gemara, but the way the Mefarshim seem to learn is that the Balkori, when he's reading B'tzibur, he has to be standing. And that's what we do. We do the Megillah also standing. That's only because covered at Tzibur. But here it's a real din that the Balkori, by reading the Torah, has to be standing, and they say it shouldn't even be leaning on the bima. He has to not much be standing. But not, let's point out that the drushes the Gemara is going to say is not going to be so evident that's talking about B'tzibur, and it's not going to be so evident that's talking about the Balkori. But in the way the post can take it, they take it dafka the Balkori, dafka B'tzibur. You have to stand. But not immediately. How do you know that's true? That this Torah has to be read standing. This is talking about by Matan Torah, by Sinai, that Hashem told Moshe, remain with me. And the Gemara says the word Amod. The pasuk says, stand with me. So the fact that it says standing, so that says Hashem was telling Moshe to stand. When he's getting the Torah, he should be standing. The Gemara says a drush that, as if to say, as if it were, that since it says stand with me, so Hashem is saying I'm also standing. And Moshe, Hashem is telling Moshe to stand, but stand with me. That means Hashem is also standing. It means in honor of the Torah, Hashem also stood. That's amazing. So Kavayachal, as if it were possible to say.
Can you touch it? That was at Matnas Torah. It's Har Sinai and not Mamela, but every other time you're in the Torah, why?
So that's
why move it over to the same.
Because it's also like a Kabbalah Torah kind of a thing. When you read the Torah, the Tzibur, so then it's as if you're getting the Torah is being given. And here it's interesting because the main point in the Gemara is Moshe, and then it says Kavayachal, even Hashem. So the Koreh. So I don't know how to learn. The poskim say that it's talking about only the reader and only the Kriya B'tzibur. That they do say that there's another source that some bring down Achronim that even the listener should also stand with Kriya Torah. The halacha seems to be not like that. The Ikar halacha is that the listeners are allowed to sit, and most places I think the listeners do sit. There's a chumrah based on a pasuk someplace else in Ezra that they say maybe to stand, but they learn the Gemara is only talking about the reader, and he's supposed to stand, even though the Gemara says Moshe Rabbeinu also.
The Kriyas Tidraises, all the Parshas Zohar and Parshas and the Aseret of Libros, we all stand.
That's not called the Kriya Deraisa. That's a minhagim, and some say dafka not to stand because Aseret Libros because it shouldn't make it sound like the Aseret Libros is more important. And Parshas Zohar, maybe it's a minute to stand, but I don't know that to be be'etzem. I don't know if it's brought down that there's a minute to stand dafka by Parshas Zohar. I don't know that to be so.
Everybody jumps in.
It could be, but I don't know if that's be'etzem. I don't know if it's inherently. I don't know if it says any place that by Parshas Zohar is more important to stand. I don't think so.
I would say by the Aseret Libros, because he has the smicha, he has the directs.
But not to stand because it shouldn't sound like the Aseret Adibros is more important than the rest of the Torah. And some people they stand already earlier or later. They don't want to get up dafka for the Aseret Adibros.
Rabbi Abahu, it seems like from the passage he's bringing, stand with me.
Yes,
Isn't Hashem the one who is Kiviyachol, is giving the Torah as
Right.
if he's standing? So then if Moshe must stand, it's because he's listening.
right.
So
And the
then that would
poskim,
be that we
the
have
listeners
to,
also, but the poskim don't say that. They don't see in our Gemara that the listeners have to stand.
He's bringing this to show that what?
That the Balkore should stand. You're asking a kasha. I don't know the answer. That if you read the Gemara,
Oh, here the with me only, not on Moshe, just the fact that it shows that Hashem was standing.
that's
so
what
to
the
speak.
poskim are going to say. Even though the main point of the Gemara was Moshe, then instead of another point that he said is that Kaviyachol, as if Hashem was standing, but it's two different. First, the Gemara says Menani Mili, Amri Abi Avo. Then it says another Amri Abi Avo. It sounds like the first one would have been the main drasha, without saying that Hashem is standing. That's that Moshe Rabbeinu was standing, but Moshe wasn't the reader. Moshe was the listener. So that's all questions.
Okay.
And if you read the Gemara plain, you might say that everyone's supposed to stand, and you might even say not only B'Kriyas Torah but Tzibur, even B'Yachid also maybe, because over there it wasn't a Tzibur. Hashem was telling Moshe. So in the Gemara alone, the drashas alone, you might say that you're supposed to read that even when you're listening or reading by yourself. But the poskim say that it means Nafka, the Tzibur and the reader. The Gemara continues. The rest of it is agav. Now there's going to be like going on a cruise a little bit about sitting and by learning, and this is mamash by learning, nothing to do with Kriyas Torah. Maybe we'll highlight this also already. The halachas that are being said. How do you know that the Rav, the teacher, should not be sitting on a couch, on a chair, and he's going to teach his students that are sitting on the floor? So it says, no, it's not good. They're supposed to be on the same level. Hashem said, you stand with me. So with me means on the same level. So if the students are sitting on the floor, the Rebbe is also on the floor. If the Rebbe is on the chair, everyone's on the chair. It shouldn't be that that's a different level. So this is not the get to what we're talking about, but the Gemara brings it already as a side point. Rabbi Vo also said about standing and sitting, that it shouldn't be that the Rav is more mechubad. The Rishon Meskikasha, right? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Any drasha on Shabbos, there's somebody, the rabbi's at the pulpit, and everybody's sitting down.
I see. If anything, the Gemara means to say that it shouldn't be that who's more mechubad over there.
The Rav is more.
The fact that he's standing, he's standing, everybody else is sitting. So do you see who's in a more mechubadik position? Who is more in a more honorable position?
Giving the share.
Is he the one who's standing? That's called more mechubad. Or what if it would be that the Rebbe is sitting, everybody else is standing? Isn't that more mechubad? No, that the one who's saying the drush. No, I'm saying it's out the cupboard. If you'd have somebody who's more mechubad, more.
Shouldn't the Rebbe be sitting?
If you're saying that the Gemara here comes lafuke, it shouldn't be that the Rebbe is sitting more mechubad, that the Rebbe is on the chair and everybody else on the floor. Or you might say the Rebbe is sitting, everybody else is standing. That's also like, if everybody else is, he also should stand. The Gemara is looking at it that the Rebbe shouldn't act in more of a prestigious way than the students. Everyone should be on the same level. The same way that Hashem stood, they didn't just tell Moshe Rabbeinu to stand. He also stood.
Oh, so his standing is not more prestigious.
So his standing is not more prestigious. So see, and I think it's the opposite. I think he's standing in Kabbalat Tzibur. The one who says the drasha, either because they should be able to hear him, or it's more Kabbalat Tzibur that he should honor them by standing. He doesn't sit. He's sitting uncomfortable. He's standing up Kabbalat Tzibur, which is that's for sure okay. But the point is that the student shouldn't be made less prestigious than the Rav.
Okay.
They should be on the same level.
At the Rambam, the kollel there, when there's a shir, often the Rebbe is sitting.
And everybody's sitting.
And everybody's sitting.
How about
he has a microphone, so it's not like he has to stand up and be heard.
Is it possible that the Rebbe would be sitting and everybody standing? That the Gemara says no, don't do that. Because it shouldn't be that the Rebbe is more prestigious than the Talmidim.
Why is that? Because it's Torah?
Because I guess so. Because you see, Hashem also stood. That's what the Gemara is mentioning. That Hashem, he didn't just tell Moshe to stand; he also stood. Maybe because of the Torah. I just noticed. I saw in Shulchan Aruch that it does say that some of the Gemara, the Mishon Masakasha, that other places you do find in the Shas that the Rebbe was sitting and the Talmidim were on the floor. So it's against our Gemara. So they say that maybe he's only talking about Chashuv Talmidim. They had smicha already, but if they're not such Chashuv Talmidim, then they could be less than the Rebbe. They come to answer the kasha. That here it says that it should not be. It should be on the same level. Other places you find that the Talmidim are less prestigious than the Rebbe, and they stay Tirutzim. So the Pasha says, like it says in our Gemara, that it should be on the same level. And just to point out, there are Gemaras that say differently. And
was it Rebbe? Whoever the Nasi was, Rebbe Shimon ben Gamliel, and who had it out for whoever it wasn't that he got put into Cherem or something. Was somebody that, or maybe it was your Rabbi Yochanan, Gamliel and Rabbi Yochanan, whoever it was, and he made him stand.
Oh, that was something else. That was a one-time thing, and he made him stand not because he was teaching, but because in a way of embarrassing him, of shaming him that he went against the Sanhedrin or something like that. But nothing to do with us.
And nothing to do with him teaching.
No, I don't think so. Maybe it's a nice thing to think about, but I don't think that's the pashas over there.
Today you see that almost, I've never seen a rub that doesn't stand and everybody else is.
So I think, but it's the opposite of our Gemara. That is putting the Talmidim to be more prestigious than the Rebbe. That for sure is no place for that. So I think it's a couple of Tzibur kind of a thing, all because it's a way of honoring the Tzibur by standing. That's
to make him be seen and heard.
So it's like a practical kind of a thing, and it's nothing to do with prestige.
And then he shouldn't fall asleep to go on.
But then the Talmidim also should be standing.
For sure.
I know somebody that he's a teacher, and when the people fall asleep, he says to stand up.
Oh, really?
He just gives a wild statement, right?
In the beginning, to get oh yeah, you're right. It was in the middle, and he said a statement that everyone woke up from. But that means they were not sleeping. They heard the statement and they were conscious enough to know that it doesn't make sense.
Dosing. We had that.
Dosing, right. They correlate on it, right? This is not talking about Kriyas Torah, it's about learning. It says from Moshe until Rav Gamliel, they put in Azakin, Rav Gamliel Azakin, they would not learn Torah, only standing. Whenever they learn Torah, they would stand because honor the Torah, not because Kriyas Torah. When they learn Torah, the whole day they'll be standing. After Rav Gamliel Hazakin died, so then a sickness came down to the world, a weakness, and then they had to sit down. They weren't able to stand the whole time. That's what it says in the Mishnah. When Rav Gamliel Hazakin died, so then the honor of the Torah became stopped because they couldn't stand anymore. The honor of the Torah was to stand. I heard that Rav Shlomo Fisher, Zechron Levrach, was just nifter that he stood always for years and years. He always stood, and the whole day he stood. I don't know if this is the reason. Maybe it's because he was able to concentrate better. But he says he always stood the whole day. He stood.
Also for health reasons.
He lived very long.
He says that
Michael Kaufman stands.
Right. So the Gemara really says that right nowadays people sit too much because we don't do anything, so we sit. The Gemara says it's not healthy to sit the whole time. The Gemara says a third sitting, a third standing, and a third walking. We just sit the whole day. It's not very, very unhealthy. Okay.
You could move around the feet. You could change
third walking.
You could change what do you call it? You could do different things.
But the Gemara does say that it's not that a person shouldn't always stand. He should. Michael Kaufman in his book, he didn't talk about it. He just said the more the better.
Standing, that he stands whenever he's learning it.
Right. No, he says the whole day. He just says for eating.
Oh, just for eating. But he
Yeah,
walks.
him
also, he's
personally.
walking.
Yeah, walking and standing. But you have to sit also. But that's what the Gemara seems to say. He didn't bring the Gemara. I don't know why he didn't bring this Gemara. Tana Rabbana. So we said that Moshe Rabbeinu, and now the Gemara Kasha. Kasav echad omer v'eishei bahar. Let's highlight this again. Kasav echad omer v'eishei bahar. One pasuk says that Moshe Rabbeinu said, "I sat in the mountain." For Kasav echad omer v'nochi yamanati bahar. Too much over there. Okay, went too much. But the other pasuk says that I stood in the mountain. Okay, if I leave it alone. So that's the question. A contradiction in the pasuk. One place says I sat, one place says I stood. So did he stand or did he sit in Har Sinai? So the Gemara is going to say 4 Terutzim. Amarav, Omeid, Velomeid, Yoshev V'Shona. When he learned it initially, so then he would be standing in Har Sinai. When he was reviewing it, here it says Moshe reviewed also. Then he would sit. Something in between. He wasn't standing, he wasn't sitting. It was like bending, crouching, maybe a way of humility. So it was neither. So it could say both. It could say sitting and standing because both of them were true. The word yeshiva, when it says it doesn't mean that I sat. It means that I was held back. I was there. I didn't come back for 40 days. It means another pasuk where the word teishu doesn't mean to sit. It means to be. So he was held up, so to speak, in Har Sinai for 40 days. So it doesn't mean sitting. So really he stood the whole time, and the word Reishav doesn't mean to sit. And
nobody talks about dwelling. I would think Yosef could mean like dwelling, like
that's similar to what the Gemara is saying, I think. And I would have said also the word amanati also doesn't mean literally standing, but the Gemara takes both. In the Kasha, the Gemara takes both of them literal.
What would
Amanati also can mean like I stood. I was there. A monitor board doesn't have to mean literally standing in contrast to sitting.
But it could be more alert.
Maybe something like that. Yeah, I think so. But the Gemara doesn't say that. And the Gemara seems to be darshaning that A-shape literally would mean sitting and monitor is standing.
Mhm.
But Rabbi Yochanan did say this there is that don't take sitting literally. It means that I was held up over there. And the last there is Rava Amar Rakos Mu'umad Kashas Miyushav. The things that are easy to learn, so then he did it standing. But if difficult things, it takes more concentration, then you have to be sitting in order to have the Yishav Adas. So it depends what he was learning.
That makes sense.
Okay, I guess
But
all
it's
of
hard,
it makes sense.
If it's hard and you're also standing, then your mind's not gonna
Mhm.
necessarily grasp what you want.
And then like we say Yeshiva Das and Yoshe.
I don't know, settled. But here means literally sitting because he should be settled. No, that his mind should be settled. So he said. So nowadays we don't have all these. This is all talking about like in Har Sinai originally, but now the Gemara says that people are weak nowadays, so we don't obligate anybody to stand by any kind of learning, even if it's easy and even if it's the first time around. And what else do we have? Those are the two possibilities. Okay, but the Gemara did say that the Rebbe and the Talmidim should be the same as far as the honor. That was the Gemara. The whole Gemara seems to talk about learning in general, not about Kriyas Torah. But just to go back to our halacha, that by Kriyas Torah, the Baal Korah is supposed to stand. Says he even shouldn't lean. Also, the poskim say that the one who gets the aliyah also. The one who gets the aliyah is also like the Baal Korah. He should also be standing. He shouldn't lean on the bima. And as far as Kriyas Megillah, the Nadin says he's allowed to be sitting, the Baal Korah. But Rambam Shulchan says that Lachatchila Kabbalat Tzibur is better to stand also if he's doing it for Tzibur. If you're reading the Megillah at home, if not for a Tzibur, so then you could sit.
I thought B'diavad, if someone is leaning at Kriyas Torah, that B'diavad.
But you have the Yotze, right? So even though it says here that the Torah is supposed to be standing, that's only Lachatchila, but you have the Yotze Kriyas Torah even if he would have read it sitting. Kara Echad, Karu Shnaim Yotze. The Mishnah says that if the two people read it simultaneously, by the Megillah you Yotze. And again, the Gemara says, Tana Mashenkim Torah. Torah is not like that. Torah is going to be that if you read it, two people simultaneously say not Yotze.
It seems like it's sort of counterintuitive because with the Megillah, if you miss a word, you're not Yotze. And with the Torah, if you miss a word, you're still Yotze. And yet you can only have one person reading.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with the Megillah,
Mm-hmm.
you can have two.
And you're still Yotze. And you're going to hear every word. You'll hear every word.
If what?
If you have two people reading, and there's more chance that you'll miss a word and you won't be Yotze.
But
if you
still,
have one
that's
person,
right. Yeah, well, that's still Yotze. The Gemara is surprised about this point. Tana Rabbana. Tana, we learned in the Brisa. Tana, we learned in the Brisa.
But it said Masha and Ken Torah.
That's what it says in the Brisa.
Like how it quotes.
Those 4 words. That's what the Brisa says. Mashen came b'Torah. Tana Rabbanan. B'Torah echad kor v'echad b'targim. U'v'bad shelo yehi echad kor shnayim b'targim. So we're going into Targum a little bit. Besides the Baal Korah, it used to be, and some places still have it, that had a Targum. That somebody translated it. Nowadays, most places don't translate because they don't know Targum. The Yemenites still do. But the point is that people should know what the Torah says. So if they know Targum, so then it would be a nice thing to have a translation. They read the Torah. The Torah reading is supposed to be to learn. It's supposed to be learning a public learning session. So they had a Targum. So here it says that by
the
Torah,
Targum is not for them to understand.
it is for them to understand.
So why would it only be Aramaic?
That's what they understood. You want to say nowadays they should do it in English?
Yeah.
Very nice. I don't know the
Oh, they
answer.
should do it in
They should tell us in English.
Or many places. That you have to have dafka one person reading and dafka one person translating. And they shouldn't even have 2 people that's translating. Not only the Kriyas Torah surely has to be one person and not 2 people reading simultaneously. Even the translation, the Targum also has to be one person. You shouldn't have 2 people translating because people might not hear. But Navi is more lenient. By the Navi, we do allow 2 people to translate simultaneously, but the Baal Korah has to be only one. We're more makbid on the Torah that even the translation should be clearly heard. But by the Navi, as long as the actual reading was done with one person, even if the translation is going to be by 2 people saying simultaneously. B'halal of a Megillah. Now, halal would mean a case where you're being motzi. Nowadays, if everyone says halal, so there's no problem. Everyone's saying halal. But if you have one person saying it and being motzi people, so then the issue is could you have 2 people saying it simultaneously? Also, by the Megillah says that the one who's reading, if you have 2 people reading simultaneously, is there a problem? Afilu asara korin. You can even have 10 people reading simultaneously, and you're going to hear. Selective hearing. You're going to listen to the one you want to hear, and even if you have 10 people saying simultaneously, it could be Yotze. Of course, if someone's going to say, I didn't hear, so I didn't hear. But the fact that it's just 2 people simultaneously reading doesn't mean that you can't necessarily hear. They take out these words of some argument. We continue. My time. Why is Hallel and Megillah different? Since it's beloved, Hallel, for whatever reason, they're saying Hallel, Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, and Megillah, that the Purim is very chaviv, the whole nace of Purim, so people concentrate and they can hear. So that's why Megillah is different. That's why the Mishnah says Megillah, you could have Shnayim Korim because people are concentrating because they are excited about Megillah Esther. But the regular Kriyas Torah, even though it's more important, but the people are not going to be so enthusiastic and they were not here if two people are reading simultaneously. The next halacha was Makom shenagu levarich yivarich. That if, as far as bracha goes, it depends what the minhag is. And the Gemara says we're talking about lachreha. We're talking about the after bracha. Amar by lo shanu ella lachreha, the after bracha, which the Gemara is going to say soon what the after bracha is. Aval lefanem mitzvah levarich. But before the regular bracha sheket shanu b'mitzvah al mikra megillah, it's a surely have to say a bracha. Not after minhagim. You surely must.
Said just like reading the Megillah, right? Which is also Rabbana.
Everything's Rabbanan, but still you have to have a bracha. Even on a mitzvah Rabbanan, you must have a bracha.
Yeah, I'm saying just like reading the Megillah is the Rabbanan.
Okay,
you have
good.
to do that.
So you have to have
So
a
the
bracha also,
bracha-
right? And only the bracha after that's a minhag. Dam Rav Yehuda Mishmol. Come mitzvahs kulam bracha leinav v'lasiyos. And all the mitzvahs you have to say bracha before. So that's what we said, that it's not talking minhag. Yeah, you must say bracha before. But there was a side point that he used the word over, which is not a regular word. That's not the usual way of saying it. So what did he mean to say? Where do you see that the word over means before, preceding? That all the mitzvahs Shmuel meant to say, the all mitzvahs you have to say bracha preceding their
Over
doing.
means before.
Right. And the Gemara wants to know, how do you know that? Where does he get that from? So I was going to bring 3 psukim to show that the word over means before. That over there is talking about they were going after the war with Avshalom and they killed Avshalom. So then Achimaatz wanted to come to tell the news to David. He thought it was good news. And there was a kushi. It was already going. There was a kushi that was sent to give David the news. And Achimaatz wanted to overpass him. So he said that he ran through another route and he passed the kushi. So that means he preceded him. He came first. So you see the word over means before. Abayom, a different source. For by Yaakov, it says that he went in front of everybody and he went to greet Esav. So that's the word avar, means again to proceed. By same, a third pasuk, the king passed before them and Hashem was in their lead. Pasuk in Micha. So again, the word vayava means to pass, to proceed. So we brought 3 psukim, but that the word means to proceed, and that's what Shmuel meant when he said that all the mitzvahs you have to do over lasiyasim. So as far as our Mishnah, the Gemara said that even though it says in the Mishnah that the bracha depends on the minhag, that's only the bracha after, but the bracha before you must say in all places. My Mavarich, what are the brachas that you say before Mikra Megillah? Rav Sheshes Mekatrazia, Ikla Lebkama de Ravashi, Yavarich, Rosh Tevis, Mem Nun Ches. So Mem stands for Mikra Megillah, Nun stands for Shas Anisim Lavasenu, and Ches stands for Shechayanu, even though it's not the first letter of all these things, but it's supposed to get it. You're supposed to get the siman that Mem is Mikra Megillah, Nun is Shas Anisim, right? And Ches is Shechayanu. That's what you do, the 3 brachas you do before the Mikra Megillah. Which bracha do you say after the Mikra Megillah? In those places that have the minhag, we said it's a minhag, but if you have the minhag, what's the bracha that you say? Baruch Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, harav, some have a kale, harav es rivenu, v'adanas dinenu, v'anokim es nikmasenu, v'aniflanu mitzarenu, v'amishalim gemol l'chol avei nafshenu, Baruch Hashem, hanifra la Yisrael, mikol tzareihem. So the one who fights our battles, the one who judges our case, our judgments, the one who takes revenge, our revenge, the one who pays back from our enemies, and the one who pays retribution to all of our enemies of our souls. Blessed are you, Hashem, who pays back for Am Yisrael from all of their enemies. Rav Amar, Okel Moshiach. Rav had a different signing off. Baruch Hashem, Okel Moshiach. God who saves. Amar Papa, Hilkach Nemrinu L'Tavayu. Because there's a machlokes what to say. Do you say Hanifra the Yisrael Mikol Tzarayhem, or do you say Hakela Moshiach? Say both of them. What do you say? Baruch Hashem, the signing off. Hanifra the Yisrael Mikol Tzarayhem, Hakela Moshiach. And that's what we do. That's the minute to do both of them together. So we have the 4 bracha, 3 brachas, Mikra Megillah, and Asanisim, Shechiyanu, and after bracha is this long bracha, Harav Asivenu, Danas Dinenu, and as far as the Chesima, we do both Chesimas together, 2 in 1. Baruch Hashem, Hanifra, Hakela, Hanifra the Yisrael Mikol Tzarayhem, Hakela Moshiach.
I don't understand how this didn't get known. If the Megillah is known, Whoever wrote it, was it Mordechai or Mordechai and Esther or Esther?
Well, they didn't institute the brachas probably at that time. Maybe
It was
yes,
only
maybe not.
A year or two later.
No, I mean, as far as the brachas you're saying, or
Yeah, as
Yeah.
far as the brachas, so we're gonna make it a holiday and we're gonna read the Megillah.
and the bracha.
And so why didn't the bracha get so clear at the
It
same
could be there was
time?
no halacha making brachas yet. That's Rabbanan. The whole halacha making brachas is Rabbanan. Actually, Knesset Gadol. I don't know exactly when.
Uh-huh.
So what the nusach is exactly could be when I had different neschos, and now the Gemara is being conveyed what the right nusach should be.
The problem with the megillah is that it's like in one level it's the Rabbanan, but in another level it has a form of the rice.
Why is it the form of the
Because it
rest?
has the brachas before and
So
after.
the Rabbanans also have a
There's lot of
bracha
things
before.
about
Yeah,
the gathering
Rabbanan-
together, you
Rabbanan-
start even limud Torah. You
that doesn't have to dafka with the rice.
I don't know. It has tremendous issues.
Yes, but I don't see that as the rice. Okay, the mission continues about Kriyas Torah. B'Sheni v'Chamisha v'Shabbos v'Mincha Korban v'Shlosha, and you have 3 aliyahs on a regular Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos Mincha. You have 3 aliyahs. How come? Why did the institute have 3 aliyahs? Any guess?
Where are we? Monday, Thursday,
And Shabbos Mincha, 3 aliyahs. Why 3 aliyahs? Hani Shlosha connected me. Corresponding to what did they? Okay, then what does it say
I
that?
would say,
Nice.
Kohen Levi Yisrael.
That also
actually,
they
I meant
want.
to say that.
Yeah, you're saying the question. What do you mean? Do you mean to say because we as a Kohen, either get first aliyah, Levi, second aliyah? The Gemara is not going to say that. The Gemara is going to say because the Am Yisrael is divided into 3 parts. So not because the aliyahs are going to be a Kohen Levi
Not the
Yisrael.
Elias, just that there are 3 parts. Kohen.
There's 3 levels of Am Yisrael. Kohen Levi Yisrael. Let's see the Gemara.
Okay.
So this is why they made 3 aliyahs. Amar Rabasi can they get on Vim Ksuvim? Not that you're reading the Vim Ksubim now, but there is. The Torah is divided into three levels of Torah. So because now we made 3 aliyahs, nothing to do with that right now, you're going to be Torah Vim Ksubim. Because there's Torah Vim Ksubim, so there were a triple Torah, so we have 3 aliyahs. Rav Amma connected Kohen Levi Yisraelim, not the Kohen Levi Yisrael that you're going to get an aliyah now. Because there's Kohen Levi Yisraelim, 3 groups in Am Yisrael. Those are 2 pshatim. Someone asks you, why do you have 3 aliyahs? 2 terutzim, either because Torah Nevi'im Ksuvim or because Kohanim, Levi'im, Yisraelim. Now the Gemara talks about how come you have 10 psukim. You have to read a minimum of 10 psukim when you read. That's it, finished.
Why not 9?
That's going to be the sugi now. Why you have 10 psukim for? Why do you say 9?
Why 9? Because each one requires 3.
How do you know that?
Of course I know that.
What
Okay.
about 3, it says in the
Everybody knows
Mishnah,
it.
3 something
Three.
chord is very strong.
Chut HaMeshulash, like the Mary
I
Nosson.
would have been there maybe.
Okay, maybe yours will be the best.
What do you say?
The Gemara continues.
How do you say
El
it?
Had-
3,
Chut HaMeshulash,
Chut HaMeshulash,
a triple chord.
yes.
Okay, El Had Tani Rav Shimi, Ein Pochus in Mir Psukim Beis HaKnesses, Vayida B'Olam En HaMinyan. Hani Asar Keneged Me. He said another halacha that you have to have at least 10 psukim at a time. When you read, you have to read 10 psukim. So where does that come from? Corresponding to what? Agav, he throws in that even the pasuk by Dav Hashem Moshe Lemar is also a pasuk. When you count to 10, even though that's like an introduction, it's not the main content, but it also counts. Vayidaber counts. That's a fly point. But we want to know, what do you have to have 10 psukim for?
Because,
Anybody?
Yeah, because 10, everybody knows that 10 is a completeness.
Okay.
Abraham Avinu had 10, Abraham Avinu had
Okay.
10 trials.
The Gemara is not going to say that. Hani Asar Keneged Me, second white line. I'm Rabbi Shua ben Levi Keneged Asar Batlanen Shem Beis HaKnesses. We have the Asar Batlanen. That you have 10 people that are constantly in the Beis Medrash. And before we talked about what's called the Ir Gadol over there in the beginning of the Masechta, here it says it again, that there are 10 people that are always Kavon in the
It's
Beis
gotta be
Medrash.
symbolic. It can't be that.
It's symbolic. That's
It's
symbolic.
symbolic that there's
There are 10 people Kavon in the Beis HaKnesses. Rashi says always ready for a minyan.
in the
The
Beis
Beis Medrash is
HaKnesses.
always ready for a minyan. Rashi says
And that's
Right,
why
there
you
you
do
go.
that's why we have 10. That's why we have 10 psukim. That's why you read 10 psukim. It's corresponding. Nothing to do with
even
these
in
10
a
people.
little city where there aren't 10 has nothing to do with the fact that
Right, because there are 10 batlanim in a city. A big city has 10 batlanim. That's why we made 10 psukim. Very interesting. Another reason.
Okay, so what about a little village? I'm living in a little village.
No, they would
There's
still
2
do it.
They
by
are,
five.
so if they don't have 10,
Why should
they-
I say 10?
because in the big city they have 10
Make it
batlanim. In the big city they have 10 batlanim.
You have to pasuk in the little village because of the big city.
Yes, you have to have 10 psukim
because that's the
also.
way Yisrael
That's
does it.
Rav Yosef Amar, Keneged Aseret HaDibros.
And that's 10.
It's corresponding to the Aseret HaDibros. That's why you have to have 10 psukim. Shenem with Moshe Messinai. There's a parenthesis here. We'll skip the parentheses. Rabbi Yochanan, maybe that's behind the scenes over here. Rabbi Yochanan Keneged Asar Morash, and Ben Olam. There's 10 statements with which the world was created. That's the reason why we have 10 psukim. The Gemara goes on a tangent that if you count it up, you don't get 10, you only have 9. Hey Ninu, Vayomer the Bereshis. What does it mean, the 10 statements? The 10 times that it says Vayomer in the Parsha of Bereshis, but there's only 9.
What are the 10 utterances?
So the Gemara doesn't list all of them, but the Gemara says that if you count them, you only will get 9. And the Gemara says, Kasha, Ani Tisha Havu, it's only 9.
What are the utterances? Vayomer?
Vayomer Elokim Yehi Or. Vayomer Elokim Yehi Or. Vayomer Elokim Yikavu Amayim. Yeah, that the Gemara says. Count it up, you see there are 9. If you count it, you might have a kasha, but we're not going to cast any kashas. But the Gemara says only 9. The Gemara answers Bereshis Nami Mamrahu, that the fact that it says Bereshis Bo Elokim Hashemayim Besaris, that also was made with a statement. How did Hashem create? Also with a statement. With Hashem's word, were the heavens and the earth created. So when it says Bereshis Bara Elokim Hashemayim Besaretz, it also is a statement. Altogether, you have 10. So what did the Gemara say? That you have 3 aliyahs on Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos Mincha. And we have 2 reasons for that. The 3 corresponding either to Torah Nevi'im Shuvim or to Kohen Nevi'im Yisraelim. And you have 10 psukim. The minimum reading is going to be 10 psukim. And that comes from either corresponding to the 10 batlanim that are always kavu on the basic nesses, or Keneged Aseres Adibros, or Keneged Asar Mamoros that the world was created with. The Gemara continues, if you can have 10 psukim and 3 aliyahs, so at least one is going to get 4 psukim. So which is the best to give the 4 psukim to, the first, the second, or the third?
Say it again, I didn't get the.
You have 10 psukim and 3 aliyahs?
Yes.
So one person is going to get 4
I get
psukim.
4.
So which one is the best to get 4? Any preference?
I would think the first, but I'm going to say the last.
So the Gemara is going to say all 3. Anyone has a milah. The Gemara is going to say why. The Gemara is not to say stam. The Gemara is going to say a reason why. Sometimes the first we see as being qualitative, sometimes the last, sometimes the middle. So the Gemara is going to bring a reason for each one. Amar Rava. Rishon shekora arba meshubach. Sheni shekora arba meshubach. Shlishi shekora arba meshubach. The first one that got the 4 psukim, he's praiseworthy. Meshubach. The second one who did the 4 psukim, he's praiseworthy. The third one, either one of them. Rishon shekora arba meshubach tetnan l'shalosh kupa shel shalosh son bohen tormin es alishka. Over there, it's talking about Tumas Alishka, that they got the money from the Machsa Shekel, they put it into the chamber, and they would do Tumas Alishka 3 times. And it says they would take 3 boxes, and they had on it Vayokosav and Alaves Gimel. They marked the boxes to know which is first. Lay the Ezeman Nitram Rishon, Lakav Rimena Rishon. Why? Shemisva Rishon. That when they did the 3 boxes to get the coins out of the Machsa Shekel, so then they would number them. Alaves Gimel. Why? In order to do it in the order that they did the Truma. Why? Because Mitzvah Rishon, the best was to do the first one that was collected, that was gathered. So here's a source where you find that the first one is the most important. So too, based on that, if you have 10 psukim to give out, it's best to give the best to the first. The first one should get the 4 psukim. There's another possibility, the middle one. Let's try to get it on the screen. First wide line. The middle one that got the 4 psukim, he's praiseworthy. The Tanya, where do you find that the middle one is more chashuv? So the Gemara is going to bring that the menorah had 7 branches, and according to one side, according to one opinion, so you'd have the 3 and 3 pointing towards the middle, and that means the middle one was the most chashuv. The Tanya, thank you. Towards the Pnei Menorah is called. The menorah is the center one. The other ones are called Knei Menorah. So the 6, the 3 and 3 should all be pointing towards the center. So you see, so that's the point that they all face towards the Ner Maravi, which the Gemara calls the center one. The Ner Maravi Klap Ishkina. And which way is the Ner Maravi, the center? Which one is it facing towards? Towards the Shkina. So Rashi explains that this opinion holds that the menorah was set up Tzafon Dorim, from north to south, and it was facing them. So it was parallel to the Parochas, call it, and the middle one would be facing towards the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The 3 and 3 would be facing towards the center, and
east. So it would be leaning towards the east.
Right, we're facing towards the east.
I think
West. I'm sorry, west. The west is the front.
West is that way.
Is the Kodesh HaKadoshim.
It's to the east.
The Kodesh HaKadoshim is towards the west.
West, yeah.
Just to point out that the custom, there's an machlokas about this point. Some say that the menorah was arranged the opposite direction, from west to east. So then the Ner Maravi wouldn't be the center one. But Agmar is going according to the opinion that it was set up, it was arranged from
north to south.
From north to south, right. The Gemara continues. Rabbi Yochanan is part of the middle one still. From this thing that you see that they all place the center, you see that the center one is the most praiseworthy. And now the third case, the last one that got the 4 psukim, he's praiseworthy. That to go higher and higher. So since you have a question of who to give out the 4 psukim to, so it's best to give to the last one.
What do you mean by high and high?
What?
What do you mean by high?
The first one got 3 psukim, second one got 3 psukim, the last one gets 4 psukim. So you went up. If you would have gotten the first one gets 4 psukim, then the rest of them get 3 psukim, so they're not as high. The fact that he got 4 psukim and only getting 3 psukim. So it's best to give to the last one. That's the machlokas. And Gemara says each one has a mila. The first, the second, or the middle, call it, because he happens to be the middle one, and the third. Papa came to the shul in a place called Abi Gubar, and the first one that got Aliyah, he got 4 psukim, and the Papa praised that it seems he owes the best one is to give to the first one should get the 4 psukim. Just to point out, Rashi says that if you have more than 10 psukim to work with, so then it's good. Then each one should get 4 psukim, which is a chiddush because the Gemara seems to say that it has to do with the one who's special. He's going to be special about it. If everyone gets 4 psukim, then nobody's special. So Rashi seems to say that if you have enough psukim to spare, you have 12 psukim, so give everybody 4 psukim. Divide it in a way, everyone should get 4 psukim. So we go with the Gemara, whatever you do is good.
Okay, the Maharsha implies that he would have praised whoever got 4.
That's a
Not
chiddush.
that-
That's a chiddush. Okay.
He says he praised him because he got 4.
But if it would have been anybody else
He
also.
would have agreed that anyone.
So that's a chiddush because the Gemara doesn't seem to say that. It would have said that Papa praised the one who got
He happened to be there and he praised the first one.
so the Gemara wouldn't bring it if it doesn't say if he's not saying anything.
Hmm?
That's the chiddush. I don't see that in the Gemara. I don't see it. I didn't see the Marsha inside, but the way you're saying it, I don't understand.
Why give it to the numbers? How about the tochen of the psukim? Maybe the psukim would go better as a 4.
So the Gemara doesn't seem to make an issue. The Allah is that if there's a parsha, if there's indentation over there, paragraph, then you have to make sure that you don't go within 3 psukim. That's other considerations. But if there's straight, no psukim in the indentation, so then the Gemara doesn't seem to talk about where it's a nice place to end. Okay, Yeshakach, everybody. We'll be sorry for going overtime, and we'll be coming back in a minute or 2 with Pirkei Avos.
So whenever, like if we're picking teams or something, and